Today we'll learn headings and text in HTML. Headings go from H1 to H6 and they define titles or subtitles on a page. Let's take a look at it in VS Code. By using an opening tag for the H1 tag and a closing tag for the H1 tag and writing something in between, we generate a title. And the title could, for example, be all you need to know about cameras. And once we save, we see we have an H1 title on the top of our page. Usually every website should only have one single H1 title, which basically represents the title of the entire page. You could also add an H2, which is basically a subtitle on your page. Let's add an H2 with the text "My favorite cameras." And once we save it, you can see the H2 popping up right below our H1. As you can see, the H2 is slightly smaller than the H1, and you can have as many H2 tags as you want. We could add a second H2 right here, for example, saying the most expensive cameras. If we further want to divide the H2, we can use the H3 to create several subtitles for the H2 subtitle. We could, for example, say that the first subtitle is the Sony A7300. Then we save it and you see we have a third subtitle, which basically is right below my favorite cameras. Now we might have several cameras, so we can duplicate the subtitle by pressing Shift, Alt and the down arrow. And by doing so, we can, for example, duplicate it twice. Now we could maybe add the Fujifilm X-T3 and probably the Sony camcorder. And now we have three subtitles showing three different cameras. We could obviously further divide our page into H4. This is an H4. And we could further divide our H4s into H5s, of course. And finally, we could add an H6 to further divide our H5s into H6. This is an H6. You don't really use H1 to H6 for styling purposes, but to really tell the Google search engine how your website is basically structured. So your H1 should always be the title of your website and the most important, most descriptive thing to describe your website. Your H2 is then usually used to subdivide your website into subsections. H3 is used to subdivide your H2s into further subsections, the way I did it right here. And then H4, H5 and H6 obviously further to subdivide the previous title. Paragraphs, on the other hand, are written within the P tag and they're used to display blocks of text on the page. So headings basically give structure, paragraphs give content. So if we take a look at our page inside of Visual Studio Code, we would, for example, write a short paragraph about every single camera. So basically about the Sony A7300, the Fujifilm X-T3 and the Sony camcorder. So we can basically generate a paragraph by using a P tag, an opening and a closing P tag. And inside of these P tags, we basically have the text we want to display. So this could be a basic text like this, or we could also obviously use a longer text. We can create a placeholder text, for example, right here, just for demonstration, by writing lorem and then the amount of words we want to use as a placeholder text. In our case, we want to use 30 words, for example. So we'd write lorem 30, we'll press enter and it will generate 30 words, as you can see. And now we have our paragraph below the Sony heading. Obviously, we can use multiple paragraphs on our website. So we could, for example, add a paragraph below the Fujifilm X-T3. We could add a paragraph below the Sony camcorder and so on. And by doing so, we have headings and paragraphs right now to give our website structure and content.